So, what happened?
Was the piece? Was the name?
It was a piece. All these are what? That's the question. What did we just do? Anyone know?
Play.
Yeah, we played. Well, that's true. Yeah, we totally played. We improvised. And that's what I want to talk about today. And that's what you're all going to do before we're done. That's why you have your instruments out. So it's been really fun playing with you guys, sitting in the section, and spent a lot of time with these guys. I haven't seen so much of the rest of you. You sound really good. You sound a lot better than you think you do. That's for sure, actually. And I noticed that one thing that happens a lot in this band is you can all play. You can all play your instruments. Every single one of you. You've got good time. You can read. You've got ears. You're doing a great job putting together like a whole set of big band music in like less than a week. And these aren't baby charts. This are real deal Count Basie charts. You can go online and listen to the original recordings played by masters and legends right now. Every single one of these pieces. So what you're playing is real music. But every time it comes time to improvise, I've noticed people get a little shy. And And that's okay, and you gotta ask yourself, like, why is that? Well, the simplest answer is fear. We all have fear, we all feel that. I am feeling it right now. I'm talking to like a room full of people, and my pulse is racing, and I'm worried about my read, and I hope this isn't gonna suck and blow up in my face. But I have to do something, right? Because I've got like 45 minutes and you're all here and I have to say something to you all, so I just have to do it. And I can't run away. I can't hide in a corner. I guess I could, but they probably wouldn't pay me. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe there's something about jazz that might be the problem. This is a funny word, the word jazz, right? Like it calls to mind a big lineage. It's all these years of study. There's all these rules, all these things you have to learn. You have to know that, you know, what a 2-5-1 is, and then you can modulate to a tritone substitution, and then you want to play the altered scale down to the F major flat 13 plus 18, 19 over an E flat dominant major. It's complicated, right? Like, it's all this stuff. And it's something that you can learn all the rules and whatever, and it's something I've been really trying to explain to the saxophone guys. Like, if you really want to play jazz, it's a language, you have to learn it, and you don't really learn it by going to school. I mean, you learn a lot from school, don't get me wrong. The theory, you know, it puts you around people, end up being your peers. Those of you who stick it out in music, maybe become professionals, you know, the people you meet here are the people you're gonna be playing with in 20, 30 years. These are the people you're gonna do your first records with. These are the people you're gonna, like, do your first tours with, you know? So that's the beauty of school. But to really learn the language, it comes from listening, it comes from transcribing, it comes from knowing the history, and, you know, some of you do that, some of you don't do that, you know? It's a lot of work. And it's, you know, so I understand that there's so much pressure. And jazz musicians, our heads are full of snakes, because every time I play, there's a part of me that's like, Coltrane would do this better. And I'm right, he would. But I'm not Coltrane, and I'm never gonna be Coltrane. And all I can do is be myself and just do what's happening in the moment, and maybe it sucks, maybe it's good. Maybe I think it's good and everyone else thinks it sucks. Maybe I think it sucks and everyone tells me it's brilliant. I don't know. Maybe it all comes out in the wash in the end. So yeah, I understand like playing a jazz solo is intimidating. But what about improvising? When you're improvising, like what we were doing right now, we had no rules. There was no composition other than the one we just made up. We didn't talk about it first. We just started to do stuff. And because we're professional musicians and we've got, you know, 25 years or whatever of experience in what we do, and all those hours in the practice room and whatever, and we know how to listen and be musical and connect with each other, we were able to kind of play off each other and do that stuff. But that really just comes from experience and years. And no one here should expect to do that. If you've been playing for 5 years, if you've been improvising for 2 years, whatever, it's unreasonable. You need patience, it takes a lot of time. You know, you can suck when you're 20 and be a world-class musician when you're 30, it's fine. You guys all have time, you're very young, right? So, who's familiar with Ornette Coleman? Does that name mean anything to anybody? I see a few nodding heads, I see a lot of blank stares. How about John Cage? Do you guys know who John Cage is? A little more, okay, because we got the classical thing happening here. All right. So John Cage, there's a very famous story where he kind of had an epiphany where he was sort of locked himself inside one of these like sound isolation booths where you couldn't hear anything from the outside world. And he only heard two sounds, the story goes. One was the beating of his own heart, and the other was the sound of his nervous system. And he came to this conclusion that that was music. And he developed a philosophy around the idea that all sound is music. And all action is a form of improvisation, actually. And you know, there's people who kind of, now he did some very extreme music, if you ever check out his book. I think one of my favorite pieces is not very famous, but there's one where like the score says it's for like opera singer and a yodeler and piano. And a guy is supposed to shovel hay into the piano, and this yodeler is just supposed to yodel. And the direction says that the yodeler is to continue yodeling until A, the piano eats the hay, or B, it becomes apparent that the piano is not going to eat the hay. I don't know what that sounds like, but it sounds really fun, right? So this is what we're gonna do. We're all gonna play something. We don't even necessarily have to play anything. The thing about improvising in a totally free context, one of the things we do is we give ourselves like limitations, right? You know, we might say, okay, we're gonna improvise over a drum, or we're gonna play really spacey, or we're gonna just, do extended techniques like we're not even gonna play an actual note. All kinds of things that you can do to shape the piece that you're creating in real time, right? Or you could say, we're gonna play a blues and it has to be in the style of Charlie Parker, right? That is one option. And it's the option we think we have to do all the time because we're in jazz school and the jazz police are like, no, this is, you should resolve this way and you have to play over this and you gotta know the blues and you gotta get those flat thirds and sevenths in there and blah, 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 blah. That's cool, great. Not all of us are gonna be jazz, all of you are gonna be professional jazz musicians. A few of you, I think, will. I think a good chunk of you are gonna be, if not all of you, are gonna be musicians for the rest of your life. Even if you've got a day job, even if you're a dentist, or a car mechanic, or a cardiologist, or whatever. It doesn't matter, it doesn't mean music leaves you, just because it's not your main form of money. Classical musician, heavy metal musician, rock musician, electronic music musician, whatever. You do this now, you're here, you don't have to be the shit. You have to meet your people and figure out where you exist, the little bit of real estate in the universe that belongs to you and only you, and figure out the lines that connect you to the other people and influences and music and art and books and political beliefs and opinions and whatever, religious stuff, spiritual stuff, family, friends, whatever, the things that makes the tapestry of your entire life, your story. And that puts you in a place and puts you on a path, and maybe that path leads to being a musician. You don't have to be a jazz musician. And if right now you're thinking, I don't want to be a jazz musician, you definitely don't have to be a good improviser in a jazz situation. But it doesn't mean you can't become a great improviser and apply that to the music that you actually want to do. Most of the music, like when I lived in Brooklyn, most of the music that was happening and the people that I kind of moved there to study with and hang out with, there's this older guard of people led by, trumpeter Wynton Marsalis, who sort of believe that's not jazz. And they tell these guys, this is not jazz. And they'd say, sure, okay, fine, it's not jazz. They love jazz, they check it out, they can play standards, they know their shit, it's great. They don't do that. They'll just show up and play. They play original music. A lot of original music written today, especially the stuff that I play with my friends, it's not really like over chord changes. We don't use that bebop harmony. I don't write tunes that sound like that. So often it's like some kind of melody or composed material, complicated, simple, free and open and rubato, or really metronomically like NASA, you need a calculator to figure out what time signature it's in. And you do this thing, and then you improvise. And then somehow you have to make something musical happen and either come back to that thing or go to something else. That happens a lot now. That's, I would say, like, for most experimental cutting-edge jazz or contemporary improvised music with jazz leanings or connections or whatever, we don't know. We don't know what to call it. No one knows what to call it anymore. It just all ends up in a jazz festival because it's instrumental and there's improvising and people don't know what else to say. That's cool, that's great, that's what makes life rich. So, I'm gonna go around the room, and I'm gonna do something. And we're gonna do call and response. There's your jazz for you. We're gonna do some call and response. And I'm gonna do a thing. Might be a thing on my instrument, it might not be on my instrument. And then you have to do something. That's the only limitation. The only option is the only limitation is you cannot do nothing. You have to do something. And to make this a challenge for me, I'm gonna try to do something totally different every time. And that's hard, that's hard. It's like, what, like 30 of you? You know, I'm gonna run out of ideas for my instrument pretty fast, so if I'm trying to do something totally different every single time, and really try to find a different idea. And most of these ideas, I'm gonna warn you in advance, they're probably gonna bomb. They're probably not gonna be very good. But that's the great thing about free improvisation. It's like brainstorming. There's no good or bad in this. It's not a concert, it's not a gig. You know, there are people, I do this, and Dominykas does this too, where, you go on a stage, you have an hour, and you just start to play. That's cool. And if that's the kind of music you want to do and you throw yourself into that world, yeah, great. A lot of depth there. But for now, let's not worry about that. And let's just do something. So, singer?
Yes.
What do you play? Singer, okay. Let's start with you. So you just have to do, I'm gonna do something, and then you have to do something. And I guess that something may involve your voice, so there we go. All right, ready? See that? She did something. See that? She scratched her head and she mumbled under her breath. She's turning beet red. She's twitching and getting super embarrassed. But that's something. You see what I'm saying? You dig? So you can be pretty loose with this, and you can get as crazy as you want. And see how I'm gonna go crazy at some point and see if anyone can out crazy me. All right, Mitz, you're up next. I like it. Even involves sound. All right, I'm gonna. Beautiful. See that? She shook her head. The thing is, you can't repeat, so no one else gets to do that. Awesome. Okay. Do something different. Yeah. dynamics, I like it. All right, we've done this Cool.
Still good, babe.
Concise. Moat and swing, 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 moat and swing. What is this? Really, what is this? What is, where? What is this? Where am I? What's happening? What is this? Once upon a time, I was walking down the street and I saw a small man enter a gingerbread house. And the gingerbread house was made actually of cornbread. We're just doing duos, man, no trios. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the stuff. Oh, yeah, brings me back to 4th grade. Multimedia.
No, that's what's more.
No, that was me. No, that was me. No, that was me. Was that me? No, that was me. All right, like, no one. Okay. All right, no one blink. This can be the greatest trick ever. Greatest trick ever. Need to adjust my hat a little bit. Greatest trick ever. I've been practicing forever. Okay, are you ready? 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 Okay, let's go. Yes!
I'll just be checking this one.
Oh! Performance art. It seems he bit off more than he could chew. No, it's not your turn yet. Cool. 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 No cool. Man, it's so cool. You know what's cool? Miles Davis was so damn cool. Yeah, super duper 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 cool. No, that was fine. That was great. next week when the lecture's over. Congratulations, you all just improvised. Right? Yeah, now come on, that's what we're doing here, right? Applauses and whatever in support of each other. Actually, like, I think the fact that you guys do that is very cool. They didn't do that in my high school. We were all grumpy to each other, man. It's like this, you guys, every one time someone takes a solo, like you guys like, oh my God, you did it! That's great. So this is a pretty safe environment. So, now I want to do something else. This is a little more musician instrument thing. Do you know what a round robin is? Ever heard that phrase, round robin? Oh yeah, the saxophones have already done this, so they know what's coming.
No, I don't have somebody that's playing what it is.
What is it?
Like round robin phrase or something like. What does it mean?
Well, you said you knew, and
No, I said I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? Oh, okay. Well, then you're luck, because I'm going to tell you. Basically,
Okay.
a round robin performance in this context, what we're going to do, it's kind of like that game telephone, you know, we're just going to go around the room. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to play a duo improvisation, right? I'm going to start with my man, Vince here. Yeah, you know it. And we're just going to play something. I don't know what's going to happen. We're going to do something, and we're kind of try to like establish like a vibe of some sort. And then Inga's going to come in. And it's going to be like a trio. And when you come in, the only rule here is like, use your ears. Listen to the people who play. What are they doing? Try to figure out some sort of like musical way that you can connect with what's going on. And once there's three of us, and we'll play a little bit. Now I'm going to stop playing. And they'll be playing duo. And then Katrine's going to join. And then Mance will stop playing, you know, and it'll be duo, and then trio, and then duo, and then trio, and duo. And we're going to go all around the room till we get there. Well, if you don't have your stuff plugged in, use your voice. Yeah, use your voice. Or if you got some like percussion, anything handy, if you want to clap. Because remember, this can go anywhere. I mean, we might get to this side of the room, and it might be like two people like talking gibberish to each other. Right? There's no rules here. But you gotta support your band. This is a band that supports each other. I can tell that, right? You guys are all buddies. You're like, you listen to each other. You clap on each other's solos. So you all share equal responsibility here. So if you got two people doing their duo thing, it's your job to come in and keep it moving. Because then you're just leaving these two people to play duo, and then you're letting your band down. No one wants to do that. None of you want to do that. I know that. So I'm just going to start. I won't play very long. And then it's just going to be off, and we'll see what kind of music we make. And we'll make a piece, and we'll see if we can maintain some kind of musical consistency, or like, I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll all be the same thing the whole way through. Maybe it'll get like wildly different. Maybe what we start here will be like super mellow, and by the end we're just crazy. Or the opposite. You don't know, right? That's why it's improv. All right, let's do something, man. was so cool. That was so musical. Everything sounded great. Man, the Barry bass trombone thing, you guys got so big. I loved it.
Yeah.
Man, trumpets, man, he's just like, he played so melodically. You were listening, those were beautiful lyrical lines. I love that you guys had the balls to take it out of the instruments. And we had clapping, and we had mumbling through paper, and the shaker, yeah. And suddenly you were playing the drums like melodies on the drums, right? And as a drummer, sometimes you don't think that this is a melodic instrument, it's just there to play, keep the time. That's not true. You have to play melodies too. When you take a solo, you don't have to be like, conka, donka, donka, da, 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 da. Stop. Be like, kunk, pshon, boom. Why not? I don't know what you did. It's okay.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Came out the beautiful voice. That's what. No, what was that piece? That was some Bach. Just some Bach. Yeah, why not? Bach's great. Play some Bach. No amp, but going for it, man. This scene here, man, I listen to records that sound like this. Okay? Some light singing, a very beautiful, minimalistic, almost Scandinavian kind of, melody, piano thing going on. Very patient, very nice, very lovely. You're very good at that, I'm learning new shit about you all the time. You gotta show me how to make that sound. That's crazy. And then the mumbling and the talking and so on. Like earlier today, when we were hanging and I played you that Claudia Quintet track, right? That's how that track starts. First track of the first Claudia Quintet album. You should all check out the Claudia Quintet, John Hollenbeck. It has this moody, like there's vibes in the band. It's like boo 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 boo, this and some accordion, and it's just like whispering, like the sound of like you're at a party and everyone's just kind of talking about you behind your back or something. These are all valid musical choices, and these are musical choices that are made by people who tour the world and get grants and do residencies in castles in Switzerland and do this stuff. I'm not joking. I'm not even beginning to joke. So if you don't want to play big band music or swing-a-ling jazz for the rest of your life, you're all great musicians. You're all super musical. You need time, you need experience, you gotta practice. You all need to practice. I need to practice. It never stops. There will never be a time in your life. The second you're like, I think I've practiced enough. I think I am the right amount of good. Never get that. It's sad when you get to that point. That's like when you quit, right? It's fine. We're always struggling with our limitations. We always have moments where we're gonna feel like that sucked. And where there's gonna be times when you go and play, and like, it's like, you're lucky everyone's so supportive here. Musicians can be vibey, catty people. You know how many times I hang out with musicians and they're just like talking smack about other musicians behind them, a bunch of gossipy fishwives, I swear to God. It's like I go to a concert with like, world famous New York so-and-sos. These guys are legends, they're masters, and people walk out, they're like, oh no, it was okay. It's like, oh, it's kind of boring, went on too long. And it's like, well, what hope do we have if that's what those guys get? Sometimes you'll play a solo and you'll be on a gig. It happened to me. It's happened to me lots of times. I'll play on I'll be in like a jobbing gig I would be in a jobbing gig or a restaurant gig or a cruise ship. I did cruise ships too. And you get these very conservative musicians who are like, music is it serves a function, it serves a commercial purpose, and this is a job, and you're just supposed to show up and play the stuff exactly as written. And I'm not telling you not to do that. It's a difference between being a pro and maybe being an artist, I guess, if you want to make that distinction. You can be an artist and be a pro. But like, if you're someone like me, if all you do, if you're playing lots of, I don't mind the odd wedding gig or whatever. I like money, don't get me wrong. But like, if I had to do that all the time, it would just be, and I did many years where I did lots of gigs like that. It was like dying a slow death for me. And I could keep it up for a little bit, but then I start getting itchy, and then I start pushing it, and then I started getting in trouble. That's that's, you know, I got in trouble. I've gotten in trouble a lot. I got in trouble high school in my in that big band for doing weird stuff on the solos. I got in trouble on the cruise ship. At the head of the band, what do you tell me? He's like, "You're the worst saxophone player I've ever played with in my life, and I would have fired you, but I'm too lazy to do the paperwork." That was my end evaluation. So, you know, we can't please everybody. What can I say? So now that we know you can all play and you're all musical, and we go to play these big band charts, and we're doing the concert on Friday, and you got a solo, you have no excuse really. I mean, you can all play. Play something. Don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry if it's the right changes. Don't worry, whatever. If anything, in this context, for me, if you can make a coherent musical statement of some sort, that sounds better, that feels better, that brings people in deeper than fumbling around looking for the right notes, the right chords. There's no such thing as a wrong note, really. You can take two notes on the piano. Every single one of them works together. I'll do it right now. Check it out. Do you mind if I? All right, cool. So this is happening. And then I'm gonna play this. Oh, yeah. It'll be kind of boring, but you know how it works. Where's the wrong note? I didn't hear a wrong note. I heard 12 different notes that when played in relationship to a pedal C, gave me a different color, gave me a different sound, right? And to be really, the greatest improvisers know this. Every note works on every chord in some way. There's some theoretical way to explain it. If you want to play in a, you know, specifically bebop music, and bebop has these rules, there's stuff that's not as common in that situation. But, you know, this is in 1944 New York, you know? This is 2018 and we're in Liepājas, and this is your music. And man, if we're playing Moten Swing or whatever, you know, a Blues Machine or any of these pieces here, Come Fly With Me, man, just go for it. Play whatever you want. The notes that sound good they sound good because you make them sound good, because you decide that is the note that needs to be played at that moment. So, I guess, what time is it? How are we doing for time?
Bad. Slowly. I don't know. Use the clock.
Is it clock?
5:95.
I can read those kinds of clocks. What time are we supposed to be done? 5:15, I guess, right? So we're a little over.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll wrap this up. In conclusion, no one gets to bail on their solos anymore, because you can all play. I heard you do it, and everyone else heard you do it. Okay? And if you're worried about playing the right notes, go play the wrong notes on purpose and just see what happens. And if it doesn't work, it's fine. You know, it'll be over in 20 seconds anyway, or a minute, whatever, you know, on to the next song. Okay? You guys sound great. Thank you very much.